Okay, so we've defined pitch in terms of higher and lower and the direction. Now we're going to talk about the musical alphabet for a minute. Okay, so the musical alphabet, when the Western system of the 12 tones, 12 notes in an octave, you're going to hear me say that a bunch of times this month. There's 12 notes in an octave. How many notes are in an octave? 12. Because we've done 12 slices from one note to the next that doubles the frequency. Okay? However, it's easiest to make music that sounds good with a certain collection of 3 to 5 notes. And when you go to 5 or 7 of that is the most commonly used. So if you take those 12, most music that you get around only uses about 5 to 7 at a time. With me so far? Okay, so you get, now there's a lot of wonderful music that even though some of you may have a bias against it, you don't realize that you hear marvelous music that uses all 12 slices all the time. Some of your most favorite movies have music that uses all 12 notes all the time, and it's gorgeous and wonderful. Okay? But the average musician starts off with using only 5 to 7 at a time. So when they decided to make the system, they said, let's make we got to create an instrument to make these notes and describe them. Let's use a musical alphabet to give the notes some names. So they came up with 7 letters, because the 7 notes of the 7 letters will be the most commonly used combination. So you could take those 7 notes and use them in different combinations, make all kinds of music, and leave the other 5 out. So, headed to the keyboard for just a second, you'll notice that, let's just say for a second, here's this black key here. That's part of the group of 2, next to the group of 3. You'll notice the pattern goes group of 3, group of 2, group of 3, group of 2 on these black keys. And between, let's just take this group of 2 black key here, and this octave above it, this other same spot on the keyboard, group of 2. You'll see how visually that's the same thing. These 2, the one on the right out of the group of 2. Between those 2 is the octave. I've just doubled the frequency. Here's this note, and then up here it's double the octave. And so we've got, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 notes in an octave, right? So we've got 12 slices. However, we use 7, 5 to 7 or so, all the time at the exclusion of the other. So what they said was, well, let's create these keys down here and make them be the 7 most common slices to make it easy. And let's put the 5 that are less used in general up here. Okay? So what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's a repeat. There's an octave. You hear how that sounds the same as that? Okay, so you got an octave, and they've got 7 slices in between, with the other 5 sitting up here. With me so far? So this system lays out really well. And when they created the musical alphabet, they said, let's use 7 letters to describe those 7 keys, and then we'll do a whole other thing to describe the other 5. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is locate the C, because we use A through G in musical alphabet, but we're going to start with the C. But in alphabet names, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and starts over with A. Okay? Now, the why we start with learning C is something I'll explain later, and I may not explain. Or you could follow up with that, why do we start on C? But I think it's going to make sense. We're going to start on C. So the first thing you want to do is locate the C. So you see a keyboard there on your page. So what you want to do is you want to look for the grouping of 2 blacks. You got 3 blacks, 2 blacks, 3 blacks, 2 blacks. Look for the grouping of 2 blacks. And then go to the white key that's immediately to the left of those 2 blacks. That's this one here. Everybody see that? Now just don't mind me and just do what I ask you to do. Find the keyboard that's on page 4 or 3 and put your finger on that key. That's a C. Right? Everybody say C. Now, I'll give a candy to the first person that tells me what the next white key note would be called. D. Now, it goes up in the alphabet just like the pitch goes higher. So C, D. What do you think the next one is? E, F, G. Now wait, the next one is going to be A again because it starts over. Now if I'm back here on C and I go down or to the left, it's going to be C, B, A, and then it starts back at G to go down. Does that make sense to everybody? Feel free to go, hey, I don't want to feel stupid, but I don't understand. Yay! Okay, so everybody has it. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. You're here to learn, so don't feel like you're going to be stupid. You're not going to be saying, we got a question on the floor, hallelujah.
Following after, I can go from A to G.
Yes, sir?
So then why does the keyboard start with F?
When you say, why does the keyboard start, are you talking about this? Now, first, I'll correct you. This keyboard actually starts at C, because there's a grouping of 3, and that would be F. There's a grouping of C. And when you say, why does the keyboard start at, in this case, C, it's actually arbitrary based on whoever made the keyboard. A full piano actually has an A at the bottom. A lot of the smaller keyboards start at a C, and there's not really a systematic, every keyboard can do it any different way, because the idea is that most of the musical stuff happens in the middle of the keyboard. Okay, so the far ends are sort of left to the manufacturer's discretion on how many keys he wants to put on it and of what order. But it's become fairly standard that a small keyboard like this has 61 keys or 5 octaves. So here's the first C, that's 1 octave, 2, and 3, and so it's 5 octaves. But a piano keyboard has like 8.5. So everybody knows where the C is, right? Everybody knows where the C is. Everybody understands the keyboard alphabet. Now, do me a favor, grab your pen, and on this page 4 here, I want you to write in the letter names. If you've been playing keyboard for 20 years, I'm not going to look at this paper. So if you decide, you know, Austin, I'm not going to waste my ink, that's okay. But unless you've been playing keyboard for a minimum of 20 years, go ahead and write in all those white key letter names for me, okay? And while you're doing that, we're going to transition to the guitar. Now, the guitar is a little bit less obvious because the keyboard players made the theory system. So they laid out the white keys, gave us 7 letter names, yay. The guitar is a little more complicated. Now, when you pluck a string and it's open or it has not been fretted, I've not applied a fret, so it's just open. So here's an open string. The first thing we need to learn is the names of the notes of these 6 strings when they're played open. Okay? So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to learn the names of the open strings. Trust me, there's a reason behind all of this. There's a method to the madness. So we're going to go from the bottom to the top, which is player's perspective. It's going to look like to you guys the opposite, but we're going to go from, as I'm looking, the bottom to the top. So this string is the bottom. This is the first one we're going to talk about. Okay? Now here's my wonderful phrase. I want you to repeat after me. Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie.
Bye.
I got a few laughs. Last time I did this, everybody was like, really? Say it one more time. Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie.
Goodbye.
So we take those 6 words and we take the first letters of each, and that gives us the order of the guitar strings. So Eddie, E. 8. The next string is A. Dynamite, D. Good is G. B. Bye. Eddie, E. Right away, you got to know something's up if you don't know anything about this at all, because we got an E on 2 different strings. What the heck is that about? We're going to unpack that here in a minute. Okay? So Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. And I got this nice little diagram on there that shows you the pitch of the keyboard as it relates to the pitch on the guitar fretboard over on the left side, right? Does that make a little bit of sense? Okay? Pitch goes higher. Notice that the strings of the guitar are not laid out in the same order as the piano keys. Right? Because the piano keys are going in letter order, but these open strings have this other order. E skips to A skips to D, D skips to G. If you're a guitar player for 20 years, you're like, duh, dude. If you're a keyboard player and this is all you understand, this is like brand new stuff, okay? If you've been a musician and active for a while, you're like, really, this is too simple. You got to trust me and stay with me. Okay? Please.